A noble description in the Holy Quran.
Well, it's just gone 8 minutes past 7. You are listening to Sabahul Muslim on Radio Islam International. The question we are asking you this morning is about messaging, calling public figures. When you do that, you're receiving their invaluable time. You're tapping into their invaluable time. What are some of the protocols that we must observe when messaging public figures, high profile people, very busy people, prominent people? Now, some people will just be irked by that question. They think, well, why must there be a special protocol for high profile people, whether they are ulama or big business people or community leaders, etc.? Why? I mean, we should all be treated equal. But I think that sometimes oversimplifies matters. It's not about being treated equal or not being treated equal. It's about being practical. And there's also a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wherein the Nabi of Allah has said, "Anzilun nasa manazilahum." Treat people according to their level, treat people according to their stature, treat people according to their position. So public figures, whether it be Maulanas, whether it be heads of NGOs, they have expertise, they have knowledge which they share with the public, and most of the time it's without any cost. You get it for free. They do public events, they give talks, they perform nikahs, they perform janazas, they give advice, they sometimes just offer a sympathetic ear. Now, what happens then is that people tend to feel entitled. Why did he become a Maulana then? If he doesn't want to take our calls, he doesn't want to answer our messages. And we don't realize that there has to be some degree of consideration. There has to be some protocol, because they carry with them a massive degree of responsibility in terms of what they already offer to the community. And as a result, sometimes they may miss your message. They may read it and intend to respond to it later, and then they forget because the messages go down. They may see your email and just not get down to responding to it, just surely because of the volume of what they're dealing with, the quantity of what they're dealing with. Sometimes people become angry, they become upset when they don't get an immediate reply from a public figure. They then phone, and in a very abrupt way, I sent you a message, you don't reply. It can result in rude messages, rude calls, people jumping to conclusions. The alim sometimes will respond in a tolerant way, the public figure. Sometimes he may also get angry and say, who do you think you are? You think you're the only person who's making a demand on my time? You think you're the only person who's asking me a question and waiting for a reply? So some things that we need to consider before we even message a public figure. One is, can I get the answer easily somewhere else? Sometimes it's a straightforward thing. You don't need to, ask a high level mufti. You can ask your local imam, and you will get an answer. It's not a complicated thing. Just because you know the person and you have the person's number doesn't mean you must now message that person because you know that person, or because you can get an answer from that person. See where you can obtain it more easily. Sometimes there are certain books which are easily available, and those books are already authenticated by the scholars, or those websites are already authenticated by the scholars, or it is a website of an established, authentic, reputable organization. So if you can find the answer there, then it's coming from a credible source. There's no need to then tap into the invaluable time of someone else. The same would go with with medical queries, for example, when it comes to doctors. Then if you feel the need that you've got to ask the person, then understand that there are appropriate times to message. Avoid salah times, family times, weekends, late evenings. Some people adhere to this etiquette. They will first send you a message and say, I require some time. Can you please indicate? I need about 10 minutes. When would be the best time for me to call? When would be the best time for me to meet you? When would be the best time for me to send you the email? And if you do all of this and you follow the protocol and they still do not respond, then there's you got to make an excuse for them. The hadith tells us, make an excuse for your Muslim brother, and more so if they're high profile, more so when they have what you call it, multiple responsibilities. Look for the kindest excuse to excuse them rather than jumping to conclusions. And the favorite kind of conclusion that many people jump to, yeah, I'm not rich, that's why they don't take my calls. That's why he just doesn't have time to meet me. That's why he doesn't reply to my messages. I'm not rich. If I was rich, then he would jump. You see, when he speaks to so and so person, then he's never in a hurry. When he speaks to us, then he's always in a hurry. That's a simple conclusion that you can jump to. Sometimes the ulama or the high profile people, they also have to treat people according to their status in society, based on that hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you may see that alim with another senior person and say, oh, how come he's giving them that much time, but he does not give me? There may be a very specific need. Maybe the head of that NGO is giving that person time because he needs a donation for that NGO from that person. It's not that he doesn't value you. He's doing what he needs to do in the best interest of his or her organization or his or her project. So we're very quick to jump to conclusions in this regard, but we also have to ask: do we follow the right kind of protocol? And our akabir, our pious predecessors, they were very conscious of the fact that they must not inconvenience anyone. They must not in any way cause trouble for anybody. And be respectful of other people's time, even when you speak to them on the phone. Try and put your points down before, on a piece of paper or something, so that you can be to the point. Even if you're sending a voice note or you're sending a message, or an email, it's gonna take that person. If you could say it in 2 paragraphs, why say it in 10 paragraphs? It's gonna take that person longer to read, but it's coming to the same thing. So, what are your thoughts when it comes to public figures, ulama, but not only ulama? They allow us to receive their invaluable time, often without any cost attached, most times, if not almost all the time. What are some of the protocols that we must observe when messaging them? You can WhatsApp us on 072 786 1548, or you can email smr@radioislam.co.za. That's smr@radioislam.co.za. Right. So now, coming up in a bit, we have our hadith for the morning. We then speak to Vincent Maguena, the spokesperson for the president, about the law that enables improved functioning of local government. Just after 7:30, words with Mawlana Waja, tafsir of Surah Banu Israel, the Africa report with Tandy Smith, coming up at about 7:45. Then after 8, Dr. Edward Ngwenya, the deputy chairperson of SAMA, that's the South African Medical Association, will talk to us about the attack on the chairperson of SAMA as he was departing King Shaka International Airport. He was stabbed multiple times. Luckily, he is recovering. We continue our focus on Khadija radiyallahu anha as part of the theme Azwaj Mutaharat that we are running this month. And Dr. Lumkile Mondi joins us on the line. He's an economist towards the end of the program to talk about the cost of tomorrow's strike, if you want to call it, stay away, whatever terms you prefer, or whatever term you have been exposed to. Shut down is the one term that seems to be floating around quite a bit. So that's coming up towards the end of the program. That's the lineup between now and 9 o'clock, inshallah. But for now, it's time for this morning's hadith.
Hadith discussions on Sabahul Muslim with Maulana Sulaimaan Ravat.
عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: حق المسلم على المسلم 5: رد السلام، وعيادة المريض، واتباع الجنائز، وإجابة الدعوة، وتشميت العاتس. متفق عليه. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, a Muslim has 5 rights over another Muslim: replying to his greeting, visiting the sick, attending a funeral, accepting an invitation, and saying Yarhamukallah to the person who sneezes. In this hadith, 5 is mentioned. In another hadith, there's a 6th, to advise a Muslim when he seeks your advice. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's restricted to 5 or to 6. It means that these were 5 or 6 of the main rights that one Muslim enjoy over another. There may have been more which Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam could mention at another time or in another way. If we look at these 5 or 6 mentioned here, the virtue of greeting, it's the right of a Muslim that you greet him. And this was the action of the Anbiya alayhi salatu wasalam, the angels, the inhabitants of paradise. It tells us about the virtue of greeting. Then visiting the ill, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam himself used to do it. He used to visit the Sahaba who were not well. It's emphasized Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. At times it may even be close to wajib when it's a very close family member, a neighbor, those who require assistance. Carrying the janazah to its final resting place, that is fardul kifaya. It is spiritually beneficial because it serves as a reminder of the grave and the certainty of death. Then accept the person's invitation unless you have a valid excuse. That's also part of his right over him, especially if it's a walima invitation, which is emphasized. When the person sneezes and says Alhamdulillah, say Yarhamukallah and reply to his dua. And if a person seeks advice, whether it's about worldly matters or spiritual matters, then give that advice if you are in a position to give that advice. If you're not, then at least try and guide them towards someone who can assist them with that matter. It's just gone 18 minutes past 7. After the break, we speak to the president's spokesperson.